All right, we're back broadcasting live at the Toms River Auto Group studio right here in Northfield. Billy Schweim, my agent at the beach, Mark Grimes, and our producer, co-host, Nikki Earnshaw. Of course, I love my Volkswagen Teos that I got from Toms River Volkswagen, Tom McMenamin. But go up and see John and Huey. They will take care of you, Grimes. I love my car, man. It's
nice
sporty.
Car.
That's sporty.
Nice. Listen, I see those Volkswagens
They're
all
everywhere.
the time at Starbucks. Each model, and they're all very nice.
They're very nice.
Yeah.
Look
I know
into that,
you
Grimesy.
love your
I
Teos.
love it, man.
You love it.
It's got all kind of these. Like I can hit
Bells
a button.
and whistles.
I got to hit a button, and I don't even have to keep my hand on the steering wheel, and I got cruise control. But if you get too close to a car, it'll slow you down. It does everything for you.
Don't do that.
All right. Hey, listen, we talked a little bit about college football in the beginning, how it's been such a great year. Of course, this is the first year with the playoffs, the expanded playoffs, and it's the first time that Army, they're 9-0 going into the game against Notre Dame tonight.
Wow.
Driving down the Palisades Parkway into Yankee Stadium, they're going to face 9-1 Fighting Irish and Notre Dame. Army's 9-0.
Yep.
If they and now it's a 17-point spread, I think.
Yep.
That's what Quash just said.
Yes.
If they could beat Notre Dame, man, this would be unbelievable.
That'd be gigantic.
All right, let's go to the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room. He's a podcaster for Army football. It's called As for Army Podcast. It's a podcast for football, for insiders, guide for cadets, old grads, and college football fans to follow the Army team as they try to beat Navy for the Commanders-in-Chief Commander Trophy next in a couple of weeks. But they got Notre Dame tonight. Let's welcome in Dan Head. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Billy. How you doing?
All right, man. You know, I was looking at your website. You guys got a great website, very informative, and it really looks good. But you guys got to be really excited about Army Notre Dame tonight.
I am very excited. Arguably the biggest game Army has played since 1958, which is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and they're playing it in New York, Yankee Stadium. Let's face it. Back in the day, like the 40s, 50s, 60s, Army and Navy were powerhouses in college football.
Absolutely. It's a very different world with the NFL, and this is obviously way before NIL, but just with the advent of the NFL being a big money league, people going to the academies and serving has not been a thing that like the highest level athletes would want to do in the way that they might have been willing to in the 40s and 50s before you could become, a millionaire playing professional sports.
Yeah, but back in the day, you had. I mean, I guess you still have to serve your country after you get out, but not as long as you used to, right? Because with Villanueva, he only served a couple of years, and then he played for the Eagles and the Steelers.
So every academy graduate has a 5-year commitment. So you're on active duty for 5 years, which is how long Villanueva was on.
Okay.
That's why what he did is so amazing, because he was, an infantry officer, ranger, in a ranger battalion. Like, that dude did a lot in the Army and then came out and, played for the Steelers.
I've had him on my show, believe it or not. My brother-in-law, who graduated West Point class of 71, retired as a full colonel, he hooked me up with Villanueva. I had him on. It was a great interview and a great American. Talk to us a little bit about this game, Dan, because let's face it. I mean, you guys win today. You're going to move up on the rankings and possibly make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's crazy because when the season started, I don't think anyone anywhere had that on their radar, except maybe Jeff Monken. I mean, the Army coaching staff, who knows? But if you would have asked the average Army fan, I think we were looking at, 8 wins and beat Navy, win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, and I think everybody would have been happy. Now here we are sitting undefeated. And, yeah, listen, these guys want the opportunity to play against the best that they can play against. Anybody who's been an athlete will want to compete at the highest level that they can possibly compete at. And that's what this is for these guys. People have been talking all year about Army's strength of schedule, which is fair. I mean, it isn't like they played a bunch of world beaters. However, this team hasn't been pushed in any way. They've dominated every single game, 9 games in a row. Like, these kids don't even know what they're capable of because they haven't been out there with the best in the country yet.
Hey, Dan, it's Nick. This is a massive game for both teams, especially for Army. And they haven't beaten the Irish since 1958, and they haven't beaten a team inside the top 10. It was Penn State since 1963. Can you talk to me about the juice heading into this game from the fans as well as all of Army?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's an amazing opportunity, right? You as a cadet and just as an Army fan, you hear about how all these great teams used to play at Yankee Stadium or at the Polo Grounds. And, when Giants walked the plane, these guys were as good as anybody. And, they won 5 national championships. And, yeah, it's nuts. And you think, well, those days are gone because it's the modern world and that's just not going to happen. And now here we are in the year 2024, and this Army team has the opportunity to set itself in the same category and in the same conversation with that 1958 team that had a Heisman Trophy winner on it.
Wow. Hey, Dan, it's Mark Grimes. I would say all the pressure would be on Notre Dame because Army's not expected to be there, and Notre Dame is always expected to be there. So I would say, hey, they got nothing to lose.
That's true. I mean, Army is already in the American Conference Championship game. Mm-hmm. They're going to play Navy in front of an NFL stadium and 6 million people watching on TV. They're going to go to a bowl game. They're going to play a Power 4 opponent. Yeah, that's true. Army has everything in front of them, and if they walk away with an L tonight, people just go, that's a good team, but whatever. But if they walk away with a win, then they become Army football royalty and change, the history of the program.
Yep. The history of the program, Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside, Doc Blanchard, and who are the two guys, Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside?
Oh, God.
You should know this.
I'm sorry.
It's Doc Blanchard and oh, man, I'm drawing a blank. My sister told me that the other day. Dan, how do you not know that? You're a podcaster, for Christmas sakes.
That's all right. So this game is...
And a historian, too. No, it's...
Actually, I should know it, too. I'm drawing a blank. Let's see. I got it here somewhere.
So I would have to think...
Glenn Davis. Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis. Yeah. That's it.
I would have to think this is a home game for Army since it's up in New York.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
How many miles is it? How many is it miles from... All they got to do is drive down to Palisades Parkway, Dan.
Yeah, so it's 55 miles from New York City to West Point. There's a whole history lesson there on why that is. We will spare your listeners, but yeah.
Well, they can check your podcast out.
It's legitimately a very close game, like about the same amount of travel that they would have for a home game. My buddy's friend is a plebe on the team, and he's not traveling to the hotel, but he'll be on the sidelines, and they're driving down there at 8 o'clock this morning. So, wow. Yeah, it's an easy drive.
All right, we're talking with Dan Head. He's a podcaster for As for Football, Army podcast. Dan, talk to us about your quarterback, man. He's a pretty dynamic player, and he's set some records this year.
Yeah, Bryson Daly is incredible. He's already run for 1,000 yards this season, completing about 60% of his passes, which is excellent in a triple option offense. Army has the highest completion range, so they throw for about 18 yards per throw. And the guy is, 6'1", 220 and likes contact. We saw in a game recently where he, gave some kid the stiff arm and bounced his head off the turf. I mean, it was brutal. The guy is a wrecking ball at the quarterback position. He literally got recruited to play linebacker at other Division I universities and chose Army because he could play quarterback.
Wow.
So think about a guy, a middle linebacker at quarterback. This is where we are.
Yeah. I got to tell you, then your defense, I mean, I was watching one game, I forget who it was. The quarterback had 2 interceptions in the end zone.
Yeah, that was against North Texas.
Yeah.
So the defense is not huge, and they're not super fast, but they are talented and smart. So with that in mind, they play a bend, don't break style. So they will give up an infinite number of quick outs to the sidelines. They legitimately don't care. If Riley Leonard is 9 of 10 for 7 yards a pop to the sidelines, nobody will care until they get into the red zone.
Right.
Because they don't want to get beat over. They don't want to get beat deep because they're 2- and 3-star athletes in the secondary. So with that in mind, once they get down to the red zone and that speed differential matters less, then they play much tighter. And you can see where I hesitate to say talent because talent kind of means a lot of things, but just skill in the game and discipline matter a lot more.
We're talking with Dan Head. He's an Army podcaster for As for Football podcast. I had Pete Dawkins on my show a few years back, and it was a privilege and an honor to have such a prestigious. He's a Heisman Trophy winner for Army, and they've got so much history there. I guess you got a feeling like everybody's pulling for Army today. Yeah.
Oh,
Right,
well,
Grimesy?
Well, you guys say there's a lot of Notre Dame fans out there.
Yeah, I know, but
but if you're not a Notre Dame fan,
I definitely don't agree with that. I feel like you can't shake a stick in this country without hitting a Notre Dame fan. I mean,
That's true.
It's like rooting for the Cowboys.
Exactly.
Don't get started on that, Dan.
Dan, do you see a high-scoring game or low-scoring game here?
Well, that sort of depends on who wins the battle up front, right? If Army is doing what they want to do, then it's going to be very low scoring. If Notre Dame is doing what they want to do, then things might get out of hand.
Gotcha.
So the spread's up to 17. That jumped because the other day it was 14.5.
Yeah, people are Notre Dame homers.
Dan, anything else that I missed about this game that you want to talk to us about?
Well, so As for Football never makes predictions. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm very comfortable with statistics.
And you are a West Point grad, correct?
I am a West Point graduate, yes, 1995.
Nice.
And so I'm comfortable talking about like what trends in numbers mean. And so people choosing to take Notre Dame minus 17, the reason that that's a bad idea is because Army plays these games close. They took Oklahoma in 2018 to overtime. They took Michigan to double overtime.
Yeah, I remember that.
And were just a missed field goal away from winning that game. This Army team is much better than either of those two Army teams. And this Notre Dame team is not as good as that Oklahoma team, probably better than that Michigan team. So, if we're talking what is the trend is that Army plays these games close. That's the trend.
Okay. I'm pulling for Army today. I'm watching that game, and I would love to see Army upset Notre Dame. That would be such a great night for everybody, for football fans in general.
Hey, I'm Irish, but I'm pulling for Army. I'm pulling for Army, buddy.
All right, Dan. How can people listen to your podcast?
So we are asforfootball.com, and that is a West Point inside joke. Uniforms at West Point are as for activity. So as for class, as for spirit, as for dinner. So this is as for football. And so if they go to asforfootball.com, we've got two different podcasts on there. We've got one about Army football. We've got one for like former NCOs in the Army who, they like the academies, but they also like Tennessee or Michigan or Oklahoma or whatever. And that's our college football roundtable. And they're both right there on the front page. And it's pretty straightforward. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple, everywhere you get podcasts.
I love it. Dan, I appreciate you coming on. Maybe we'll have you back before the Army-Navy game.
I would love it. This has been a pleasure.
All right, Dan, thank you
luck.
so much. Good luck to the Black Knights of the Hudson. We appreciate you.
Thanks. Go Army. Beat Navy.
Go Army. Beat Navy. All right, there's Daniel Head on the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline. Grimesy, I'm pulling for Army tonight. Now, my sister doesn't want me to bet the game because I'm a mushad. I'm a jinx, right? I can't even pick my nose. I'm so bad. But I'm pulling for Army. I'm locked in, dialed into that game tonight.
1,000. Hey, listen, like I said, I'm pulling for Army. I always pull for the underdog.
Yeah. You know what, Nick? See, this is like historic. This game tonight. It's like it's a throwback.
Yes.
It's gonna be awesome, and I gotta go with Army too. I hope Army beats them tonight. I mean, I like going over some of the numbers. Like they haven't beaten a team inside the top 10 since the '60s.
No,
like, that's crazy.
Like if they do this tonight, people don't realize how monumental it is.
It's historical if they do it.
So my nephew Matthew Brooks, who graduated West Point class of 2000, he told me about these guys, and I said, well, and I listened to the podcast. It's so professional. These guys are really good, and I said, you know what? Let's get them on.
Yeah,
And
great interview.
Yeah. So, all right, we want to thank Daniel Head. Make sure you check out the As for Football podcast. All right, the first hour of the locker room is powered by Surety Title. Surety provides comprehensive title insurance protection and professional settlement services for home buyers and sellers, real estate agents, brokers, lenders, home builders, developers, and attorneys to facilitate your real estate purchases. From the shore to Center City and every place in between, Surety Title is there for you with 15 office locations in New Jersey and PA. That's Surety Title. For more information, call my good friend Ron Conklin at 856-988-8900 or give Chris Mooney a call in the Ocean City office at 609-399-1227. I'm sure you use Surety Title, right, Grimes?
Great company.
Yep, it is. All right, just like you're my agent at the beach.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just about everybody in our area has heard about the Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine that is run by ex-Philadelphia tight end Ken Dunnick. But were you aware of their private business network they call the Legacy Club? Every month they hold private events at upscale locations in Philadelphia and South Jersey that attract over 200 top business people. If you have an interest in attending one of these events and see it's a fit for your business, send an email to ken@jerseymanmagazine.com or give him a call at 856-912-4007 for more information. I know, Nick, I brought you to a couple of these events.
Oh, yeah.
You've met a lot of people.
A lot of people.
And we're going to go to the Christmas party.
Can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
When we return, we'll wrap up hour number one. You're listening to The Locker Room with Billy Schweim, Mark Grimes, and Nikki Earnshaw right here on 97.3 ESPN.